This book is dedicated to every U.S. citizen who strives to understand their rights and responsibilities within the complex legal landscape of our nation. It is dedicated to those who seek empowerment through knowledge, enabling them to navigate the challenges of daily life with confidence and to participate fully in the democratic process. It is dedicated to the tireless advocates for justice and equality who work tirelessly to ensure a fair and equitable society for all. This work is a testament to their dedication and a resource for those seeking to build a better future for themselves and their communities. It is with hope and a profound belief in the power of informed citizenship that this book is offered as a tool for empowerment and understanding. It's a dedication to the ongoing pursuit of justice, equity, and the unwavering strength of the American spirit in navigating the complexities of our legal system. We hope this book serves as a steadfast companion on that journey, a guide illuminating the path towards a more informed and empowered citizenry. Finally, this dedication extends to the many unsung heroes who work behind the scenes to ensure that the principles of justice are upheld and the rights of all citizens are protected. The United States boasts a robust and complex legal system, often perceived as intimidating and inaccessible to the average citizen. This book aims to bridge that gap, providing a clear, concise, and practical guide to understanding fundamental U.S. law and citizen rights. We understand that legal jargon can be obfuscating, and therefore we have made a conscious effort to use plain English, employing real-life examples and hypothetical scenarios to illustrate complex legal concepts. This book is not a substitute for legal counsel. Rather, it serves as a valuable tool to empower individuals to navigate common legal situations and to understand their rights and responsibilities as U.S. citizens. It is designed for a broad audience, from young adults entering adulthood to immigrants unfamiliar with the U.S. legal system and anyone seeking a deeper understanding of their rights. Whether you are facing a housing dispute, navigating employment law, or simply seeking to better understand your fundamental rights, this book offers the knowledge and tools to help you confidently approach legal matters. We believe that an informed citizenry is a powerful citizenry, and this book is a step toward empowering all Americans to fully participate in the legal and civic life of our nation. The information presented within these pages is intended for educational purposes only and is not legal advice. Consult with a legal professional for advice regarding specific legal issues. Understanding your rights as a U.S. citizen is crucial for navigating the complexities of daily life and fully participating in our society. From employment and housing to consumer protection and interactions with law enforcement, legal knowledge empowers you to make informed decisions and protect yourself from potential harm. This book provides a comprehensive overview of fundamental rights and responsibilities, presented in an accessible and easy-to-understand format. We will explore key areas such as the Bill of Rights, due process, equal protection, freedom of speech, and the rights of the accused. We'll also delve into practical matters like employment law, housing rights, consumer protection, and voting rights. This book is designed to be a practical guide, not a dense legal textbook. We utilize real-life examples, hypothetical scenarios, and clear explanations to demystify complex legal concepts. The goal is to equip you with the knowledge to confidently assert your rights, understand your responsibilities, and navigate legal situations effectively. Whether you are a young adult starting out in life, an immigrant seeking to understand the U.S. legal system, or simply someone looking for a better grasp of their rights, this book will serve as a valuable resource. Remember, this book is an educational tool and does not constitute legal advice. Always consult with a legal professional for guidance on specific legal issues. By understanding your rights, you are empowered to protect yourself, your family, and your community. This book is a step towards a more informed and engaged citizenry, capable of shaping a more just and equitable society. The Bill of Rights, the first 10 amendments to the U.S. Constitution, forms the cornerstone of American liberty. These amendments, ratified in 1791, weren't simply added as an afterthought. They represent a fundamental shift in how government power interacts with individual freedom, a direct response to the concerns of the Founding Fathers about potential governmental overreach. Understanding these rights is not merely an academic exercise, it's a crucial component of active citizenship and navigating daily life in the United States. The First Amendment, perhaps the most well-known, guarantees several fundamental freedoms: religion, speech, the press, assembly, and the right to petition the government. Let's unpack each one. The freedom of religion is a two-pronged guarantee. The government cannot establish an official religion, preventing religious coercion, and individuals are free to practice their chosen religion, or no religion at all, without government interference. This has been interpreted through numerous Supreme Court cases, establishing the separation of church and state as a key principle, while also recognizing the right to practice religious beliefs, even if those practices might be unconventional. Freedom of speech is another cornerstone of the First Amendment. It protects a wide range of expressions, from political discourse and artistic creations to personal opinions and even offensive statements. However, it's crucial to note that this freedom is not absolute. There are certain categories of speech that receive less protection or no protection at all, such as incitement to violence, defamation, libel and slander, and obscenity. The line between protected and unprotected speech is often blurry and has been the subject of extensive legal debate, particularly in the context of the internet and social media. For instance, while you can express your political views vehemently online, directly threatening violence against an individual or group is illegal and can result in criminal prosecution. The Supreme Court continually navigates these boundaries, balancing free speech with other societal interests. The freedom of the press ensures that the media can report on matters of public interest without government censorship or undue influence. This right is vital for a functioning democracy, holding those in power accountable and informing the public. While the press enjoys significant protection, it's not immune to legal challenges, especially regarding issues of defamation or national security. The balance between a free press and the potential for harm is a constant subject of legal and public discourse. The right to peaceably assemble allows citizens to gather for protests, demonstrations, or other collective actions, expressing shared views or concerns. This right is crucial for political and social change, providing a platform for voicing dissent and pushing for reform. However, this right is also subject to reasonable time, place, and manner restrictions to prevent disruptions to public order. Government can regulate protests to prevent traffic congestion or maintain public safety, as long as these regulations are not discriminatory or overly restrictive. Finally, the right to petition the government allows citizens to seek redress of grievances, whether through formal legal processes or informal means. This includes the right to contact elected officials, lobby for legislation, or file lawsuits against government agencies. The Second Amendment protects the right to bear arms. This has been a highly contested amendment, with ongoing debates about its interpretation and application. The Supreme Court has ruled that this right applies to individuals, not just militias, but the extent to which this right is absolute remains a subject of ongoing legal and political contention. Different states have varying laws and regulations concerning firearms, adding another layer of complexity to this debate. Understanding both the federal implications of the Second Amendment and the specific laws of your state is crucial. The Third Amendment protects against the forced quartering of soldiers in private homes. While seemingly less relevant in contemporary society, this amendment reflects a foundational concern about governmental intrusion into private life, setting a precedent for subsequent protections of personal privacy. The Fourth Amendment protects against unreasonable searches and seizures. This means the government generally needs a warrant based on probable cause before searching your home or person. Exceptions exist, such as consent, plain view, and exigent circumstances, urgent situations where waiting for a warrant could jeopardize public safety or evidence. Understanding these exceptions is vital for knowing your rights during interactions with law enforcement. The exclusionary rule, a principle stemming from the Fourth Amendment, states that evidence obtained illegally is inadmissible in court, acting as a safeguard against police misconduct. The Fifth Amendment contains several key protections. It guarantees the right to due process of law, ensuring fair treatment by the government. It protects against self-incrimination, meaning you cannot be forced to testify against yourself in a criminal case. This right is often invoked by the familiar phrase, "I plead the Fifth." The Fifth Amendment also guarantees the right to a grand jury indictment in serious federal cases and prohibits double jeopardy, being tried twice for the same crime. Finally, it protects against the taking of private property for public use without just compensation, eminent domain. The Sixth Amendment guarantees the right to a speedy and public trial, the right to an impartial jury, the right to be informed of the charges against you, the right to confront witnesses, and the right to legal counsel. These rights are fundamental to ensuring fairness and transparency in the criminal justice system. The right to a lawyer, even if you cannot afford one, is a crucial protection for individuals facing criminal charges. The Seventh Amendment guarantees the right to a jury trial in civil cases exceeding a certain amount of money. This ensures that disputes between individuals are resolved through a process involving ordinary citizens. The Eighth Amendment prohibits excessive bail and cruel and unusual punishment. This amendment has implications for sentencing in criminal cases, leading to ongoing debates about the morality and effectiveness of various forms of punishment. The Ninth Amendment clarifies that the enumeration of specific rights in the Constitution does not mean other rights are not also protected. This prevents a narrow interpretation of the Bill of Rights, recognizing that individual liberties extend beyond those explicitly listed. The Tenth Amendment reserves powers not delegated to the federal government to the states or the people. This principle of federalism defines the balance of power between the federal government and the states. The Bill of Rights is not a static document. Its interpretation evolves through legal precedent, societal changes, and ongoing debates. Understanding its core principles empowers you to protect your freedoms and participate effectively in our democratic system. This knowledge is not merely a matter of legal literacy. It's a cornerstone of informed citizenship and exercising the fundamental rights that are the bedrock of American society. By understanding these protections, you can confidently navigate everyday life, knowing your rights and how to protect them. The Fifth and 14th Amendments to the U.S. Constitution guarantee both due process and equal protection under the law. These are not merely abstract legal concepts. They are vital safeguards against arbitrary government action and discriminatory treatment. Understanding their practical application is crucial for every American citizen. Due process, enshrined in the Fifth Amendment, applying to the federal government, and the 14th Amendment, applying to state and local governments, essentially means that the government must act fairly and reasonably in its dealings with individuals. It's not simply a matter of following procedures. It requires that those procedures be fundamentally fair and just. Due process has two main components: procedural due process and substantive due process. Procedural due process focuses on the procedures the government must follow before depriving someone of life, liberty, or property. This isn't limited to criminal prosecutions. It applies to a wide range of governmental actions, including license revocations, welfare benefits terminations, and even school disciplinary proceedings. The level of process required depends on the stakes involved. A minor traffic violation might only require a simple notice and hearing, whereas a more serious offense like felony charges necessitates far greater procedural safeguards, such as the right to an attorney, the right to confront witnesses, and the right to a jury trial as guaranteed by the Sixth Amendment. Imagine a hypothetical scenario. You're pulled over for a minor traffic infraction. The officer, without probable cause, searches your car, finding contraband. This would likely violate your Fourth Amendment rights against unreasonable searches and seizures. However, even if the evidence were admissible, perhaps the officer had reasonable suspicion, the procedural due process element kicks in. You have the right to contest the ticket, to appear in court, and to present evidence in your defense. This is a fundamental aspect of procedural due process, ensuring fairness in even relatively minor encounters with law enforcement. A more egregious violation might occur if you were subjected to excessive force by the police during the stop. That could potentially lead to a civil rights lawsuit alleging violation of your procedural due process rights. The court would then evaluate whether the police acted reasonably under the circumstances, considering factors such as the nature of the offense, the officer's response, and the level of resistance, if any. This evaluation is a crucial aspect of assessing whether the process itself was fair and just. Substantive due process, on the other hand, focuses on the substance of the government's actions. It asks whether the government's actions are fundamentally fair and reasonable, regardless of the procedures followed. This often involves protecting fundamental rights not explicitly mentioned in the Constitution, such as the right to privacy or the right to raise one's family. The Supreme Court has used substantive due process to strike down laws that are considered overly intrusive or arbitrary, even if they were enacted following proper procedures. Consider a hypothetical zoning law that prohibits the building of houses that are within a certain distance of a park. If this zoning law were applied selectively, only to those of certain ethnic backgrounds, it could arguably be a violation of substantive due process. Even if the city followed all correct procedures in enacting the ordinance, the underlying policy would be unconstitutional if it was based on discriminatory intent. The court would then assess the actual effect of the ordinance, examining whether it has a disproportionate impact on any particular protected group. This shows that the substance of government action, not just the procedure, must be fair and reasonable. Equal protection, primarily found in the 14th Amendment, mandates that similarly situated individuals be treated equally under the law. The government cannot discriminate against individuals based on certain protected characteristics, such as race, religion, national origin, gender, or disability. This doesn't mean that the government can never treat people differently. It means that differences in treatment must be justified by a legitimate government interest and be narrowly tailored to achieve that interest. This is typically analyzed under different levels of scrutiny, depending on the classification used. Strict scrutiny is applied when the government classifies individuals based on a suspect classification, such as race or national origin, or infringes on a fundamental right, such as voting or interstate travel. Under strict scrutiny, the government must demonstrate that the classification is necessary to achieve a compelling governmental interest. This is a very high bar, and such classifications are often struck down. Intermediate scrutiny is used for classifications based on gender or illegitimacy. Here, the government must show that the classification is substantially related to an important governmental interest. This is a less demanding standard than strict scrutiny, but still requires a significant justification. Rational basis review is the lowest level of scrutiny. It is applied to most other classifications, and the government only needs to demonstrate that the classification is rationally related to a legitimate governmental interest. This is a very deferential standard, meaning that courts generally uphold laws that meet this test. Consider a hypothetical scenario involving employment discrimination. An employer refuses to hire an individual because of their religion. This would likely violate the Equal Protection Clause, as the employer's action constitutes discrimination based on a protected characteristic. The individual could potentially bring a lawsuit under Title VII of the Civil Rights Act of 1964, which prohibits employment discrimination based on religion, among other things. The courts would then analyze the employer's justification for not hiring the individual, applying a strict scrutiny standard, since religion is a suspect classification. If the employer fails to present a compelling interest and demonstrate that refusing to hire the individual based on their religious beliefs is necessary to achieve that compelling interest, the court may rule in the employee's favor. The Supreme Court has addressed countless cases involving both due process and equal protection. Cases like Brown v. Board of Education, 1954, profoundly impacted the interpretation of equal protection, dismantling the legal framework of racial segregation in schools. The landmark decision established that, separate but equal facilities were inherently unequal, violating the 14th Amendment. This case demonstrates the transformative power of equal protection litigation in dismantling discriminatory systems. Similarly, Roe v. Wade, 1973, while controversial, involved substantive due process arguments concerning the right to privacy and bodily autonomy. Understanding due process and equal protection is not just about memorizing legal definitions. It's about recognizing how these principles manifest in daily life. They are the cornerstones of a just and equitable society, protecting individuals from arbitrary government actions and ensuring that all citizens are treated fairly under the law. Knowing your rights under these fundamental constitutional guarantees empowers you to challenge injustice and participate more fully in our democracy. From interactions with law enforcement to navigating employment situations or dealing with government agencies, awareness of your due process and equal protection rights is essential to securing a fair and just outcome. The knowledge of these principles arms you against potential overreach and empowers you to actively protect your fundamental rights as a citizen of the United States. The First Amendment to the U.S. Constitution guarantees freedom of speech, a cornerstone of American democracy. This right, however, is not absolute. While it protects a vast range of expression, certain categories of speech receive less protection or no protection at all. Understanding this balance between protection and limitation is crucial for exercising this fundamental right responsibly and effectively. The core principle of free speech is the protection of the marketplace of ideas. The Supreme Court has consistently held that the free exchange of information and opinions, even those unpopular or offensive, is essential for a healthy democracy. This allows for the open debate of ideas, the challenge of prevailing norms, and the eventual triumph of truth through the process of public discourse. This concept, while seemingly straightforward, has been subject to considerable interpretation and reinterpretation throughout American history, especially in light of evolving societal norms and technological advancements. Protected speech encompasses a wide array of expression, including political speech, artistic expression, religious expression, and even offensive or unpopular views. Political speech, often considered the most highly protected form of speech, allows individuals to criticize the government, advocate for political change, and participate in public discourse without fear of censorship or reprisal. This protection extends to protests, demonstrations, and the dissemination of political information through various media, including print, broadcast, and the internet. Artistic expression, including literature, music, visual arts, and performance art, also receives significant protection under the First Amendment. This protection allows artists to express themselves creatively without government interference, even if their work is controversial or challenges societal norms. The courts have generally been reluctant to censor art, recognizing its importance as a vehicle for social commentary, emotional expression, and cultural exploration. The line between protected art and unprotected obscenity, however, can be a fine one, often dependent on community standards and the context of the work. Religious expression, guaranteed by the Free Exercise Clause of the First Amendment, is also a form of protected speech. Individuals are free to practice their religion, express their beliefs, and engage in religious activities without government interference. This protection extends to religious speech in public forums, as well as within religious institutions. While the government cannot prohibit religious expression, it can regulate the time, place, and manner of religious activities to ensure public order and safety. Even speech that is offensive or unpopular is generally protected under the First Amendment. The Supreme Court has repeatedly emphasized that the protection of free speech extends to views that many find objectionable or even hateful. This principle is based on the understanding that restricting unpopular speech could lead to censorship of other ideas and ultimately threaten free expression as a whole. The heckler's veto, where a hostile audience silences a speaker, is not a legitimate basis for restricting protected speech. However, the protection of free speech is not unlimited. The Supreme Court has identified several categories of speech that receive less protection or no protection at all. These categories are based on the potential harm these types of speech could cause, such as incitement to violence, defamation, obscenity, and fighting words. Incitement to violence refers to speech that directly incites imminent lawless action. This is a high bar, requiring proof that the speech was intended to produce imminent lawless action and was likely to do so. Mere advocacy of violence, without a clear and present danger of immediate action, is generally protected. The difference between protected advocacy and unprotected incitement is often determined by the context, the speaker's intent, and the likelihood of violence occurring. Defamation, which includes libel, written, and slander, spoken, involves false statements that harm another person's reputation. However, the First Amendment provides strong protection for speech that criticizes public figures, even if it is false or damaging to their reputation. Public figures must prove not only that the statement was false and damaging, but also that the speaker acted with actual malice, meaning they knew the statement was false or acted with reckless disregard for the truth. This high standard of proof reflects the importance of protecting robust public debate, even if it involves criticism of powerful individuals. Private individuals, on the other hand, have a lower burden of proof in defamation cases. Obscenity, defined by the Supreme Court's Miller test, is speech that appeals to prurient interests, is patently offensive, and lacks serious literary, artistic, political, or scientific value. This definition is notoriously difficult to apply, and the legal standards for obscenity can vary across jurisdictions. The determination of obscenity often involves considering community standards and the overall context of the speech. Fighting words are words directed at a specific individual that are inherently likely to provoke a violent response. This is a narrow category of speech, encompassing only those words that are likely to incite an immediate breach of the peace. Unlike other forms of unprotected speech, fighting words are rarely prosecuted, and the Supreme Court has often emphasized the difficulty in defining what constitutes fighting words. The advent of the internet and social media has presented new challenges to the interpretation and application of free speech principles. Online platforms, while privately owned, often function as public forums, facilitating the expression of a wide range of views. The question of how these platforms should regulate speech has become a major point of contention, involving complex issues of free speech, censorship, and the potential for online harassment and misinformation. While private companies generally have the right to set their own content moderation policies, governments have also begun to grapple with the implications of online speech for national security and public discourse. The intersection of free speech and online platforms remains a rapidly evolving area of law. Furthermore, the issue of hate speech presents complex questions about the limits of free speech. While hateful expressions are generally protected under the First Amendment, laws prohibiting hate crimes, which involve violence motivated by prejudice, are generally considered constitutional. The line between protected hate speech and unprotected incitement to violence or hate crimes can be blurry and often depends on specific facts and circumstances of each case. The issue of hate speech is often debated with passionate viewpoints from all sides, highlighting the ongoing challenge in balancing free speech with the need to protect vulnerable communities from violence and discrimination. In conclusion, freedom of speech, while a fundamental right, is not absolute. The Supreme Court has carefully balanced the protection of free expression with the need to prevent harm to individuals and society. Understanding the nuances of protected and unprotected speech, particularly in the digital age, is critical for both citizens and policymakers alike. The ongoing debate surrounding the limits of free speech reflects the dynamic and evolving nature of this essential constitutional guarantee. The protection of this right remains essential to a functioning democracy, even while acknowledging the difficulties of navigating its boundaries. The continuous evolution of legal precedent in this area underscores the importance of understanding and critically engaging with the complexities of free speech in the context of the modern world. The bedrock of the American justice system is the presumption of innocence. This fundamental principle, enshrined in both common law and constitutional guarantees, ensures that individuals accused of crimes are not subjected to arbitrary punishment or unfair treatment. Central to this presumption are a series of crucial rights afforded to the accused, designed to protect them from potential abuses of power and ensure a fair and just trial. These rights, while often discussed individually, are interconnected and collectively contribute to a system that strives for impartiality and accuracy. One of the most well-known rights of the accused is the right to remain silent. This right, stemming from the Fifth Amendment's protection against self-incrimination, allows an individual to refuse to answer questions from law enforcement officers or prosecutors that could incriminate them. This protection is not merely a formality, it is a powerful safeguard against coerced confessions and wrongful convictions. Law enforcement officials are obligated to inform suspects of their right to remain silent, a critical aspect of the procedural safeguards designed to protect individual liberties. The consequences of waiving this right can be profound, potentially leading to self-incriminating statements that are difficult, if not impossible, to retract later in the legal process. The Supreme Court case Miranda v. Arizona, 1966, significantly shaped the understanding and application of the right to remain silent. This landmark decision established the requirement that law enforcement must inform suspects of their Miranda rights before custodial interrogation. These rights include the right to remain silent, the right to have an attorney present during questioning, and the right to have an attorney appointed if one cannot be afforded. The ruling aimed to address the issue of coerced confessions obtained through interrogation techniques that often disregarded the individual's constitutional rights. While the Miranda warnings have been subject to legal interpretation and refinements over the years, they remain a cornerstone of police procedure and a vital protection for the accused. Cases involving violations of Miranda rights frequently lead to the suppression of evidence obtained during interrogation, highlighting the significance of this procedural safeguard. The right to legal representation, another crucial right of the accused, is enshrined in the Sixth Amendment. This amendment guarantees the right to counsel, ensuring that individuals facing criminal charges have access to legal expertise to navigate the complexities of the legal system. This right applies to all stages of the criminal justice process, from initial arrest and arraignment to trial and appeal. The importance of legal representation cannot be overstated. Experienced attorneys possess the knowledge and skills necessary to effectively challenge evidence, investigate facts, negotiate with prosecutors, and present a strong defense in court. Individuals without legal representation are at a significant disadvantage, making it more likely that they will plead guilty, even if innocent, or face harsher sentences. The Supreme Court has consistently emphasized the importance of providing legal counsel to indigent defendants, recognizing that unequal access to legal representation undermines the fairness and integrity of the justice system. The case of Gideon v. Wainwright, 1963, solidified this right, mandating that states provide attorneys to defendants who cannot afford them. This landmark decision has significantly altered the landscape of criminal justice, ensuring that the right to counsel is not a privilege, but a fundamental guarantee for all. The protection against self-incrimination, as previously mentioned, is deeply intertwined with the right to remain silent. The Fifth Amendment explicitly prohibits the government from compelling an individual to testify against themselves. This protection extends beyond mere statements made during interrogation. It encompasses any evidence that could be used to incriminate the accused. The privilege against self-incrimination is not just about protecting individuals from forced confessions, it is also about safeguarding the integrity of the justice system. Forced confessions, even if obtained through methods that do not technically violate Miranda rights, can be unreliable and potentially lead to wrongful convictions. The protection against self-incrimination ensures that the burden of proof lies with the prosecution, requiring them to build a case based on evidence independent of any compelled testimony from the accused. The practical implications of these rights are far-reaching. In cases where the police fail to administer Miranda warnings, any statements obtained during the interrogation might be ruled inadmissible in court. This can significantly weaken the prosecution's case and even lead to the dismissal of charges. Similarly, ineffective assistance of counsel can be grounds for appealing a conviction, highlighting the critical role of adequate legal representation. The right to remain silent, often invoked at the outset of an investigation, can protect the accused from making statements that could harm their defense later on. The exercise of these rights, while often misunderstood or misinterpreted, is fundamental to ensuring a fair and equitable justice system. Examples abound in legal history, illustrating the vital role these rights play. Cases involving wrongful convictions often highlight the systemic failures that occur when these rights are disregarded or undermined. Cases where confessions were coerced, due process violated, or effective counsel lacking demonstrate the potential consequences of inadequate safeguards for the accused. The careful and meticulous application of these constitutional protections is not merely a procedural exercise. It is crucial to maintaining public trust in the integrity and fairness of the criminal justice system. The protection of these rights is not simply about protecting individuals who are guilty. It is about ensuring that everyone, regardless of guilt or innocence, receives a fair trial under the law. The delicate balance between protecting societal interests and upholding individual rights is at the heart of these essential guarantees. The procedural safeguards surrounding the rights of the accused extend beyond the specific rights enumerated above. For example, the right to a speedy trial, guaranteed by the Sixth Amendment, prevents indefinite detention and ensures that cases are resolved within a reasonable time frame. The right to a public trial, also guaranteed by the Sixth Amendment, promotes transparency and accountability in the justice system, allowing the public to witness the proceedings and ensuring that the process remains open and accessible. The right to an impartial jury, also guaranteed by the Sixth Amendment, ensures that the accused is judged by a fair and unbiased panel of their peers. These rights, along with the right to confront witnesses and present evidence, collectively contribute to a system that strives for a just and equitable outcome. A lack of any of these procedural protections can lead to a demonstrably unfair trial and the potential for a wrongful conviction. Furthermore, the evolution of these rights reflects a continuous effort to refine and strengthen the protections afforded to the accused. Judicial interpretations of these rights, along with legislative actions and reforms, contribute to a dynamic legal landscape constantly adapting to societal changes and evolving understandings of justice. The ongoing debate surrounding issues such as police brutality, racial bias, and the use of technology in law enforcement underscores the importance of continuously scrutinizing the application of these fundamental rights and ensuring that they are applied consistently and fairly to all. The rights of the accused are not static. They are constantly evolving and adapting to address the challenges and complexities of the criminal justice system. The evolution of these rights is a testament to the ongoing commitment to protecting individual liberties and ensuring a fair and just system for all. The continuing vigilance in safeguarding these rights remains a cornerstone of American jurisprudence. The fundamental rights discussed thus far, the right to remain silent, the right to legal counsel, and the protection against self-incrimination, are crucial components of a fair criminal justice system. However, the protection of individual liberties extends far beyond the confines of the courtroom. A critical aspect of safeguarding personal freedom in the United States is the right to privacy, a concept not explicitly defined in the Constitution, but deeply embedded within its fabric and judicially recognized as a fundamental right. This right, while often implied rather than explicitly stated, plays a pivotal role in shaping the relationship between individuals and the state, as well as the interactions between individuals and private entities in an increasingly digital world. The Fourth Amendment to the U.S. Constitution provides the primary constitutional basis for privacy rights, prohibiting unreasonable searches and seizures. This amendment explicitly states that the right of the people to be secure in their persons, houses, papers, and effects against unreasonable searches and seizures shall not be violated, and no warrants shall issue but upon probable cause supported by oath or affirmation, and particularly describing the place to be searched and the persons or things to be seized. The seemingly straightforward language of the Fourth Amendment has been the subject of extensive legal interpretation and debate for centuries, with its application evolving alongside technological advancements and societal changes. The requirement of probable cause before a search warrant can be issued is central to the Fourth Amendment's protection. Probable cause necessitates more than mere suspicion. It demands a reasonable belief, supported by articulable facts, that a crime has been, is being, or will be committed, and that evidence of that crime will be found in the place to be searched. The specificity requirement, demanding that the warrant particularly describe the place to be searched and the things to be seized, prevents overly broad searches that might infringe upon legitimate privacy interests. The Supreme Court has repeatedly emphasized the importance of these requirements in safeguarding individual liberties. Numerous cases have illustrated the consequences of warrants issued without probable cause or lacking sufficient specificity, leading to the suppression of evidence obtained through such unlawful searches. The concept of reasonable expectation of privacy has emerged as a key element in determining whether a search or seizure violates the Fourth Amendment. This doctrine recognizes that individuals have a reasonable expectation of privacy in certain places and circumstances, even if they do not own or control those places. For instance, individuals generally have a reasonable expectation of privacy in their homes, their vehicles, and their personal belongings. However, the degree of privacy protection afforded varies depending on the location and the nature of the intrusion. For example, the expectation of privacy in a public park is significantly less than that in one's own home. The Supreme Court has consistently grappled with the complexities of defining reasonable expectation of privacy in an era of advanced surveillance technologies. Technological advancements have significantly challenged the traditional application of the Fourth Amendment. The widespread use of cell phones, GPS tracking devices, and other technologies raises complex questions about the extent of government access to personal data. The Supreme Court has addressed these challenges in landmark cases, attempting to balance the government's need to investigate crime with the protection of individual privacy in the digital age. The court's decisions in cases involving GPS tracking and cell phone searches have underscored the importance of clear legal standards and procedural safeguards to prevent unwarranted government intrusion into individuals' digital lives. The evolving legal landscape necessitates a continuous reevaluation of the Fourth Amendment's application in the context of emerging technologies and their impact on privacy expectations. Beyond the Fourth Amendment, other constitutional provisions and legal principles contribute to the broader concept of privacy rights. The Fifth Amendment's protection against self-incrimination plays a role in limiting compelled disclosures of personal information. The 14th Amendment's Due Process Clause provides further protection against arbitrary government actions that infringe upon privacy interests. Moreover, various federal and state statutes offer additional protections for personal information, covering areas such as medical records, financial information, and online data. This multifaceted approach to privacy underscores its crucial importance as a fundamental right in American society. Privacy rights extend beyond interactions with law enforcement. Workplace surveillance, for example, raises complex legal issues concerning the balance between an employer's legitimate business interests and an employee's right to privacy. The legal framework governing workplace monitoring varies depending on the context and the nature of the surveillance. However, generally, employers are prohibited from engaging in unreasonable or intrusive surveillance that violates an employee's reasonable expectation of privacy. The specifics of this framework and the reasonable expectations of privacy are often subject to interpretation based on factors such as the nature of the job, the extent of the monitoring, and the existence of clear policies informing employees about such monitoring. In the digital age, privacy concerns have expanded dramatically. The collection and use of personal data by private companies have raised significant privacy challenges. The increasing use of data analytics, targeted advertising, and online tracking technologies have led to concerns about the potential for misuse of personal information. While legal frameworks such as the California Consumer Privacy Act, CCPA, and other state laws offer some consumer protections, the challenge lies in effectively regulating the vast and rapidly evolving landscape of data collection and use by private entities. The challenge is particularly complex, given the ever-evolving technologies employed and the cross-border nature of much online data collection. Protecting one's personal information requires a proactive approach. Individuals can take several steps to safeguard their privacy, such as using strong passwords, utilizing privacy settings on social media and other online platforms, being mindful of the information they share online, and regularly reviewing their privacy policies. Understanding one's rights under applicable laws and regulations, and actively exercising those rights when appropriate, are critical aspects of effective privacy protection. Staying informed about the latest privacy-related laws and technological developments is crucial in navigating the ever-changing landscape of digital privacy. The evolution of privacy rights continues to shape the legal and societal landscape. The ongoing debate surrounding data security, facial recognition technology, and other emerging technologies underscores the importance of adapting legal frameworks to address the ever-evolving challenges to personal privacy. The balance between the societal benefits of technological progress and the protection of fundamental rights necessitates a continuous reassessment of legal protections and societal norms surrounding privacy. The protection of privacy, intertwined with the broader notion of individual liberty, remains a central pillar of the American legal system, demanding ongoing vigilance and adaptation to the changing times. The future of privacy rights hinges on a continuing dialogue between legal scholars, policymakers, and the public, ensuring that the balance between technological advancement and individual liberty remains a priority.